Hello, I'm Nick Jarrett-Kerr. Some years ago, I joined a club for chief executives. This was when I first became a managing partner of a very large law firm, and it was in the early 90s. This club used to meet monthly, and the chief executives would sit around trying to solve each other's problems. Now here's the point. I was the only professional service firm leader in that club. The other captains of industry just couldn't fathom out the professional service model. They couldn't get the hang of the business model, they couldn't get the hang of the structure, they couldn't understand the dynamics, and they couldn't understand how, for instance, as managing partner, I would not have the power to hire or fire partners who didn't fit in. They couldn't understand the concept of partners as shareholders, as shop floor workers, as managers, all at the same time. And yet, within a very few years, management gurus like Tom Peters were extolling the virtues of the professional service firms. Flat models of management, people empowerment, asset-free structures or low asset structures, and little or no inventory. In this course, we're going to look at the weird and wonderful world of the professional service firm. We're going to see how it's structured and what the fundamentals are. The role of partnership, which is how most professional service firms certainly started and most are today. The role that partners or members play in that. What are the economic drivers of the professional service firm? And what are the other things that move professional service firms forward? We're then going to drill down a bit and look at things like culture and change management and the dilemma, if you like, of people who have to manage what are sometimes becoming really quite big businesses now, at the same time as having to do fee-earning work for major clients. So first of all, let's look at the fundamentals of the professional service firm. The structure, the role of partners or members, and an introduction to economics of the professional service firm and what drives profitability. Professional service firms have developed over the centuries. They started many, many years ago as father and son businesses, sole traders if you like. They moved from that into groups of professionals getting together in what one might describe as a chambers setting, sole practitioners grouped together in one building and each practicing for their own clients. There was a Partnership Act in the late 19th century which at the time of this course is still the law of the land, although it's being changed as we speak. Until 1967, only 20 partners were allowed in any partnership, and now we see firms all over the world with hundreds of partners. The numbers of solicitors and accountants have multiplied since the mid-60s. Professional service firms are also now big business. I understand that they employ about 1/5 of all employment in most mature marketplaces. Some of the big four accountancy firms have turnovers and economics to match the economies of a small country. So what are the main structural and management imperatives for such firms? There are, I believe, three areas which are key and which differentiate professional services from most other industries. The first is the management of professional talent. As it's often been said, in most firms the assets walk out of the door every evening and get in the lift first thing in the morning. The second element of three is the management of client relationships. These are not one-off sales that take place in a corner shop. These are usually relationships that endure for years, endure for decades, are long-lasting. The third critical issue in the professional service firm is how knowledge is managed, is marshalled, and is deployed in a competitive marketplace. There are other things that need to be looked at as well. The material assets of most professional service firms are fairly small compared with industry. Plant and machinery are not that critical. The second point I would make here is that most professional firms started as partnerships, and that's the model which is still employed as the basis of a lot of professional service firms. Is this still the right answer for the future? Will we still see partnerships as the right approach going forward? Well, we'll look at that in a minute or two. One final point before we look further at the fundamentals. What is it that a professional service firm is actually selling at the end of the day? Many of the fees are based on time. So is a professional service firm selling time, or is it selling something else? It's my belief that the professional service firm is actually selling skills and experience, rather than just time. Turning now to how the professional firm is now organised, the modern contemporary firm. There are, I believe, 4 basic models, although there are, of course, many variations. A number of firms are turning to corporate models as the way for the future. Many surveying firms, estate agencies, consultancies, banks are set up as corporations while still retaining some of the ideals of professional service. Most accountancy or law firms are still either partnerships or limited liability partnerships. The limited liability partnership, or LLP as it's come to be known, is a relatively recent phenomenon. It came about only just a few years ago, and it's a hybrid between partnership and limited companies. So we have corporations, we have partnerships, we have limited liability partnerships, and of course for sole practitioners, we have sole traders.